for the first time ever, I, Eric, am consuming more local content than I am international content. And I'm happy about that. Like, it's really amazing to see young people like MacG and your Slik talks, and there's a lot more, and the other ladies, and there's also Lasizwe, who are doing amazing things, and it's very inspiring, and it's really amazing. It's really amazing because no one is backing them up. Well, when they started, no one was backing them up. So when they start these businesses, these companies, these empires, man, they are starting alone. And to see them creating businesses that can cater for South Africans and well, Africans as well, and are successful and are in high demand, man, it's amazing. And I'm really proud to see things like that, because as young black men, we are taught, our education system never taught us to start our own shit. Our education system never taught us to start something and to want the royalties of something. It's sad, because if you don't get the royalties, you are poor. You will just live and just get by, while white people, they get the royalties and they make a lot more money, while we are just the slaves and we are just living until the next month. We are always just getting by until next month. So to see these guys start these industries, the MacG podcast, man, I am blown away. I'm so impressed. I'm so proud. I'm to see a TV show, to see a show that I love more than any TV show in South Africa. To see that from a production of black guys who sometimes don't get paid because there's no money coming in. To see a production like that, man, it's really amazing. For me to be watching the podcast, for me to be watching Slik Talk, for me to be watching Vault Entertainment, for me to be watching Lasizwe, more than Generations, more than Muvhango, more than Skim Sam, more than any other TV show, for me to be repeating the podcast episodes more than I'm repeating the Avengers movies, it's really amazing. It simply means that what these guys have created is amazing, and it's an empire. And sometimes as black people, we don't give each other credit. We don't see what we have created. There's a lot more, man. There's so much negativity on social media about the podcast, and it's really unfair, and it's sad because people don't see. Let me tell you something. White people, when they start an industry, they always aim for the royalties, because they will become rich and leave a lot more money for their kids and their grandkids when they start an industry. That's why white people are always rich, because when they start a business, they aim for the royalties. Our education system has always taught us. I mean, I did business studies for a year in matric, and in the whole of that class, there was never a time, never a second where our teacher or the textbooks spoke about the royalties. Never, ever. Each and everything was about you as a black person having a point, Employment Equity Act, having a point over a white person when you go to look for a job. You as a woman having a point over a white person or a guy when you're going to look for a job. But there was never anything about starting the business and the royalties. And you can have a point over a white person while you're working at a specific company. You can have a point and then get the job, but you're certainly not going to get the royalties. And you're just going to stay poor for the rest of your life. That's why black people are still in the townships. That's why black people, even if they drive big cars, half of the times is the only person in the family who's driving that big car. The royalties cannot flow to the next person. The royalties cannot flow to the cousins. The royalties cannot flow to the next generation. Well, for white people, they have so much money, it can flow to the next generation. That's why I say seeing black guys start businesses, start companies, start production houses from nothing. Not the NFVF, not the trade industry, nothing. From nothing, man. And then just start something and then make something in entertainment for black people. And it's sad because most people are not proud of it. You look at the taxi industry, most people don't realize that our fathers, our grandfathers, they fought for that industry. The white government wanted the taxi industry to be no more. It wanted it gone because it knew the numbers will make anyone who's successful in the taxi industry rich, will give anyone a living. The numbers of black people are so high that any person who is in the taxi industry will become rich, will live a proper life, will be amazing, will have an amazing life. And the white government knew that. That's why it tried so hard to kill the taxi industry. But our fathers, man, our grandfathers, they fought for that industry. They fought tooth and nail. That's why today the royalties of the taxi industry does not go to London, France, UK, Australia. The royalties of the taxi industry does not go to some white guy somewhere. It does not go to one guy somewhere. The royalties of the taxi industry go to our fathers, our brothers and sisters, and they can feed their families, and they are living fine, and they are okay, and they are comfortable. Man, when you go to the taxi industry, when you go to the taxi rank, the way the taxi drivers are working, remember they created a successful industry, a web of taxis that can take you from Cape Town to Durban. Anywhere in South Africa, a taxi can take you anywhere. They created a successful web of man, a structure so amazing that works perfectly fine. It does have its flaws, but it is working and it's perfect, and it's feeding our brothers and sisters, our fathers. And that's something that we need to be proud of, and that's something that we need to see. You know, the taxi industry and the music industry, those industries are amazing. We need those guys, man, the Zakes Bantwinis, the Oskidos, the DJ Freshes, and all of those guys, the Nak Musics, the Prince KBs of this world. All of those guys, the Saharas, Bo Rebecca Malupe, Bo Joya Celebration. Those guys, man, Bo Pastor Benjamin Dube, those guys, man, they need to be given credit because they own those record labels. The royalties are not going to France. The royalties are not going to Germany. The royalties are not going to Belgium. They own everything. Money goes to them. They can live, they can drive AMGs, they can drive amazing cars from their strength, from their sweat. It's really amazing. You know, to see these young guys, your MacG, Soul Penduga, the Lasizwe, the Slik Talk, the Vault Entertainment, to see these young guys start this industry where it is, to see those guys, man, start something, it's just a small step for just a group of guys with their cell phones, with just a platform, but it's a giant leap, man, for us as young black people. It is a giant leap, and we need to see that. And each and every industry must look at the taxi industry. Each and every industry in South Africa, all black people must look at the music industry and then take that, because the royalties of the taxi industry and the music industry does not go to France. It does not go to America. It does not go anywhere. It does not go anywhere else in the world. It does not buy a white person a boat that costs $50 million. The royalties of those businesses, the royalties of the taxi industry, man, does not buy some white guy a Bugatti Veyron that costs 20 million rand. It does not do that. The royalties are spread among our black brothers and sisters. The same as the music industry. The royalties are spread among our brothers and sisters because it's industries created by black people for black people, supported by black people, and are feeding black people. So there's no need to send money to one guy. If we can do that with the retail industry, if we can do that with the pharmaceutical industry, if we can do that with clothing, textile industry, if we can do that with any manufacturing industry and fight for it and own it. Remember, taxi drivers fought for the taxi industry. Remember, during apartheid, the apartheid government had the bus system. It had a bus system, and it was forcing black people to use that bus system. The apartheid government, it put black people very far from the town, and then it put the bus system in place so that the black people use that bus system again to get to work. So they paid you less. They made sure that you spend that money on them again, going to work and coming back home, on their shops, on their music, on their TV. That's why they became rich. With our numbers, they were bound to become rich. But if we take everything and start doing it ourselves, we can become rich. We can be able to distribute this money among our brothers and sisters. Remember, South Africa rates highest in the world for inequality, where the black guy gets paid 1,200 at Clicks, where some cashier at ShopRites who work there very hard, man, in December holidays, in December seasons, who works there very hard, can come out with only 3,000 bucks. And yet the owner in France, somewhere in Belgium, wherever the owner of ShopRite is, the person is royalty, is a billionaire. But if we take those businesses, if we start our businesses and support our businesses, we can be able to say, you know what, the wealth must just spread among our people. The same as the taxi industry, the wealth is spread among our people. The same as the music industry, the wealth is spread among our black people. If we can do that, man, we can go far as a people. And that's why I say, looking at Lasizwe, MacG, the MacG podcast, man, it's such a huge movement. Looking at Amapiano, it's such a huge movement. And it's music, it's companies, it's recording labels that are started by black people, young black people, for black people around the world. And it's labels, it's companies that are started by young black people for black people around South Africa, and they are successful, and these young guys are living nice. To see young people in the music industry drive those cars, man, it's really amazing. I'm inspired. It's really amazing, and we can do it as a people. It's something we need to fight for. Like the taxi drivers fought for the taxi industry because they could see the gold in it. We need to fight for any industry where black people are customers. Each and every industry where black people spend their money and time consuming whichever product, we need to start those businesses and take our black people and make sure that we support each other. And look at the music industry. It's a community of black people consuming the music and then feeding the people who are producing that music. And black people are enjoying that music. It's a community that's perfect. That's whole. It's perfect. The taxi industry, it's an industry that's for black people, and it's feeding black people, and it's supporting black people, and it's for the use for black people, and it's perfect on its own. We need to fight for that, and we can do it. That's why I say, man, the MacG podcast, I big up, man. Like Lasizwe, he's also amazing. To see Lasizwe on TV with different brands, it's really amazing. Like, those guys are amazing, and I look up to them. And those guys are doing well, man. I like I said, for me, Eric, to be watching the podcasts, to be watching South African YouTubers more than I consume American movies, my guy, that's for me, like, that's impressive. Like, to take my attention like that, it's really amazing. And I'm proud to see, you know, everyone who goes to the MacG podcast, they always say it's a black crew, black managers, black everything, black excellence. It does exist. After all, we are not useless, man. Like, we are not as useless as some other people think we are.